To order at, was it 9:46? Okay, we'll start out with, I'll pass it over to Danny and give you a little history on what we're going to talk about today, and then we'll go on with the approval of minutes. Okay?
Hello, thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. I'm going to give you a little bit of history about Oakley, how it was formed, the costs associated to it, and why we need to consider these price increases. So from the time Oakley was created by the following entities: Fowler, Manzanola, Rocky Ford, Swink, La Junta, Chirac, and Otero County, it has had to rely heavily on city and county subsidized funding. Expenses to operate have risen due to increasing regulations. And I want to stop right there and really push the point that regulations force us to do a lot of this. Nothing is cheap anymore, and we'll get to some of that later on, but regulations drive our costs tremendously. So inflation and operation expenses. Entity members simply do not have these funds to continue at our current rates. In addition to the subsidies, each entity is required to budget for a post-closure allocation. And what that means is, if for some reason the EPA or the state would come in and say that your landfill is no longer able to be ran by you. If we make a mistake, we don't follow regulations, we don't, whatever. And they say you're required to shut down. So with that requirement, they require us to have the money to shut down at any time. So within 6 months of them saying you shut down your landfill, we have to pay for and shut it down. So that allocation is currently $1.8 million that the entities are having to carry at daily. Every day there has to be that money somewhere. Doesn't mean we come up with $1.8 million a day, but $1.8 million has to be carried by the entities for a post-closure allocation. So Oakley needs to be able to operate as a viable business and put aside funds over time to eliminate the entities having to carry this in their budget. They simply cannot carry that kind of money anymore in their budget with inflation and costs and everything going on. It just puts a strain on each city and the county to carry that money. So one of the largest misconceptions is that it does not cost much to dig a hole and bury trash. That may have been true 30 years ago when there was not Subtitle D regulations by the EPA. When it was as simple as digging a hole and covering it with dirt and you went on about your day. The current cost for each 5-acre landfill cell is currently around $1.3 million. And that's due to Subtitle D regulations and how you have to dig a landfill cell. So each time we open a cell, it costs us approximately $1.3 million to design, excavate, and construct it. When the landfill reaches its design capacity, we're required to close that area and follow more closure regulations. In 2018, Oakley completed the closure of site number 2. This is the site that is the original Rocky Ford landfill site, which is on Road Y and 21. So that cost us approximately $1.2 million to close that. In addition to that closure cost, we must now monitor and perform water and gas testing for the next 30 years. So every time we close a landfill or we close a cell, it has to be monitored and tested for 30 years following. And that is a yearly expense. to a closed landfill. So in 2023, the Manzanola landfill will close due to its design limitations and its capacity limitations. When they decided to keep Manzanola open, we went into a design agreement with the state of Colorado, and when it reaches its design capacity, which we will in 2023, then we have to close it. So that's why Manzanola will be closing. It's not because we do not want to continue to operate it, we don't want to continue to run it. It is at its full. Manzanola is full. There's no room for any more trash there. And so we estimate that that's going to cost us over $300,000 to close Manzanola. And sometimes those figures may not make sense when you say, well, why is it going to cost $300,000 to close something that's full? You have to come in and close it per federal regulations. So you have to have the cap over it, you have to have it revegetated, and it's not as simple as just putting a little dirt over it and going about your day. You have to do it per the design. So I'd also like to give you just a few other examples of significant costs that it takes to operate the landfill. Landfill compactor, $600,000, and we replace those every 4 to 5 years. So every 4 to 5 years, we have to buy a new compactor. Heavy equipment repairs and maintenance, that costs us $50,000 to $75,000 a year. Replacement of aged equipment. A lot of the equipment that we run our current landfill on is used old equipment, and it's just because that's all we can afford. And we're anticipating that it's going to cost us around $300,000 over the next few years to replace that equipment. And that's not replacing it with new equipment. That's replacing it again with used equipment in order to keep our costs down. Fuel is a huge expense. Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment solid user fees, they charge us to run their program. They charge us for every bit of trash that we put in. So we have to pay them to take trash. And then we pay them on their oversight of our landfill and permits to run a landfill, permits to close the landfill, permits to have a name on the landfill. It's ridiculous amount of permits that we have to pay for. Then we have professional engineering fees that we pay out to pay an engineer to make sure that we stay in compliance with all these regulations. And then a huge cost factor has been inflation. Operations, equipment, and fuel has just skyrocketed, and we can't keep up with it. And then you have your employees to run it, and then the cell construction and cell closure to open up a new cell or to close cells. So as you can see, there are significant costs involved to just dig a hole and bury trash. Oakley is in no way trying to profit from the landfill. However, in order to continue providing to be one of the cheapest landfills in the state, we must raise the fees to cover the ever-increasing costs associated with landfill operations. Oakley is determined to continue to provide affordable landfill pricing. With any of the proposed cost increase that are on the table today, we will remain one of, if not the cheapest landfills in the state. So another point that I would like to make is if we went with the most drastic cost increase, that only raises our revenue less than 10%, which still doesn't keep up with the inflation cost. So we're still going to have to scrimp, save, and do other things where we can to keep this landfill cheap for you guys. So
Okay.
that's my spiel.
Okay.
Any questions on any of that I covered?
I do, sir.
Yes.
Is there, we get local, state, and federal tax money? I mean, gifts or grants?
We do not.
We don't get anything.
No.
I want, is there a reason why? I mean, everybody else gets something for, just because it's waste?
Yeah, it's just really not, there's not much grants out there that would apply to a landfill. We have received grants in the past for waste tires. So we're able to either accept them from the public for free, and/or at times we've been able to grind them and use them for cover, and they paid us a little bit of money to do that in the past.
Was it worth it? I mean,
Not at all.
not at all.
It is to take the tires for free and to clean up the community, and the state pays for that, for us to do that, or they come in and they actually, in the last 2 times, they have collected the tires and took them themselves for free, and that's even better because we don't have to touch them.
Yeah, but as it is right now, we don't do that.
But, no. And there's just not grant funding available. Now, like I say, the subsidized funding, that is taxpayer dollars coming from each entity involved with Oakley to help fund and run the landfill, but that money is running out. Every town in the county, everybody in here is seeing the effects of inflation, and it's just through the roof. We have to do something.
Anybody else? Any comments? Okay, we'll open it up to visitors that'd like to make comments. We'll give you 3 minutes. Just state your name and
Okay.
we'll go from there.
You're looking at me, let me go first.
No, no.
I do have a couple of letters that a couple of customers gave me that they wanted me to pass along.
Sure.
So, I'm Jennifer Bradshaw, my husband and I own Valley Trash. So, I know this is rough on everybody, I promise, I do know that. So I wrote this because I have a problem talking too much. So I'd like to address the potential increase of the landfill. The numbers that are being presented for increase are being compared to fees that are paid in Pueblo. I personally don't like to be compared to Pueblo in any area of life. We live in a slower paced, cleaner, better community by choice. Pueblo has trash everywhere. Some of that I recognize. People don't care. They think it's too expensive to dump, so they just do it. Some of them are just, they don't care. So, let's see here. Something else though. Do you know that Pueblo has to hire people? They have hot spots. They hire a full-time position for people to track down people who are dumping trash. They have cameras, they have people. It's inexpensive. So, they literally have cameras set up in hot spots. I mean, are we prepared to hire somebody to do that? We're gonna have to. The employees don't have the time, obviously, and there's a lot more area to cover here. Obviously, there's a lot more area. Pueblo has around a dozen private-owned waste hauler companies. The Valley has 1.5, and I only say half because Sugar City is city-owned, also hauls outside of their own town limits. Pueblo has a nationwide trash companies as well, like the one that provides service for Crowley, Boone, and Ordway. Crowley badly wants to quit them, but they have such an ironclad contract that it's hard for them to get out. I bring this up because both Sugar City and I did put in a bid for the town of Ordway, but Ordway continues with the big company. So much for shopping local, right? All these small towns claim that they want that, but you know. But because it is cheaper to go with a nationwide company. Do you know why? Because they own their own landfill. This is important because if I have to raise my rates to compete with Pueblo prices, people are gonna choose them. And then we all lose because people will go with Waste Connections. They don't have to pay the dump fee. They're not gonna pay the dump fee, especially in our landfills. They don't do any business in our community. They don't change their tires here, they don't eat here, they don't do anything here. They take everything back to Pueblo, including their landfill fees. This landfill will hurt if it cuts out the small companies. we'll all lose, all of us. And not just small businesses, names and faces that you guys see every day. I'm comparing to Pueblo because that's the comparison that I was told for me for the rate increase. Do you know that what Pueblo has that we don't? They have longer dumping hours, 7 to 5, Monday through Friday, 7 to 3 on Saturday. They have less days off for holidays. They have cleaner dumping areas. They have more locations. They have transfer stations. They offer recycling on location. Do you know that they do not have to separate their trash in Pueblo like you do in our landfill? You can put tree branches in the pile. On that note, I have lost roll-off customers recently because they want to throw all their trash in one container and get it hauled to the landfill. That's what a landfill's for, right? Lamar has also been brought up in conversation for comparison. Do you know what Lamar offers that we don't? Free weekend every month for anybody that lives in the city of Lamar. The average cost of the landfill right now in the state of Colorado is $21. That makes it twice what we're currently charged. But I think it's a fair number to work towards, but over time, like 2 years maybe, when dealing with people's money and livelihoods, change needs to come at a gradual increase. Is that my timer? Can I hand my paper to someone else?
You can ask the chair.
Can I keep going?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I won't ramble.
No.
Change needs to come at a gradual increase, especially at a time when everything is costing us more. Electricity, fuel, groceries are the three big ones. I do not want to double or triple my customer's bill overnight. Just this morning, I had a phone call. Somebody called and said that their current company had tripled their bills. They signed up with me just this morning. It was brought to my attention that if I can go spend $100 for lunch, then I should be able to pay a little bit more for trash. And I don't disagree with that logic. But that also, these rates also affect these people that can't even afford toilet paper. They're on such a tight budget that they cannot pay those bills. I do not want to raise my prices on them. Not like that. That's how we started. We couldn't afford our trash bill anymore. We had to go with a big company because I don't remember there being anybody else. So he said, we're gonna haul it, I may as well make some money while I do it. That's how we started. Most people here ask me why. Why are they making these changes? They're closing the Manzanola landfill, they're closing for more holidays, and now they want more money. Why? I feel like this should be explained better. I asked 3 different people that are present here in this room today, and I got 3 different answers. I asked if the towns are still paying towards Oakley. One report I got, nope, they weren't. Next report, yep, they are. The third report, yeah, they're both right. They're still gonna pay, and so are the people. Where's all that money going? Like, the towns are paying, and now the people are up. I'm gonna close with this, I'm closing. As a child, I hated the dump. We called it the dump. It was a really big hole. It was dug by a piece of machinery that I thought I was gonna fall off into and be burnt with the doggone rats. But now it's part of my everyday life, and I really like it. And those people out there, I do call them friends. I really enjoy each and every one of them. So I don't want it all to change. I don't want everybody's bills to have to go up. I want to keep things how they are. My opinion, we finally achieved the American dream, supporting our family with the home business. So thanks. Thank you for letting me go over time.
Thanks for coming in.
I'll hand this over.
I had a question. If it was taken over, for instance, by Diablo,
I'll give him.
would,
I'll give him one.
I mean, so did they carry the trash to Diablo to dispose of it to the landfill there? Or do we still use one in Otero County?
If Pueblo, if Waste Connections or one of the large Pueblo haulers were to take over your service, they're gonna take it back to Pueblo. They would not come to us. They do not have a contract with us.
Is that good, bad, or ugly, or what?
The landfill won't make any money.
It would be bad.
Well, okay, but if the landfill won't make any money, then the money we spend goes to Pueblo.
Yep.
Right, gotcha.
Sir, what's your name?
Jim
Jim.
Latham, Latham.
Thank you, just
Thank
for the
you.
minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But I would like to point out, you know, we're doing everything we can to keep it as cheap, and we are still going to be the cheapest landfill in the state. One of them. We can argue that in a minute. However, if we cannot sustain this landfill, and worst case scenario comes, and we can no longer operate this landfill, and a large company comes in and buys this landfill, such as Waste Connections, and they take over, your rates are going to skyrocket. You know, it looks bad now going from what we are to the highest proposed increase. To go from your local government-owned entity-controlled landfill to a private landfill, either for them to own and operate, or we shut down and they take everything to Pueblo. You're going to triple what we are proposing. We are doing what we can to keep small businesses local, to keep everybody paying the cheapest that they can in the state.
Jennifer, I just want to say, I know you touched on a couple of points from our discussion. The one that sticks out to me is we all know going out to eat is fun. It's nice to not have to cook dinner at home. But one time a month, you go out to eat and it costs you $100. And if you say, you know what, that one time in a month we don't have to go out to eat, you don't realize that small steps make a huge impact on your monthly budget. And we all have to make hard decisions on how we spend our money monthly. And little changes can make a big impact. And unfortunately, we're taxed with the responsibility of unfortunately making a decision that affects a lot of people. So we don't take that decision lightly. It's a decision none of us wants to have to make, knowing it affects many small businesses, not just the trash service. I mean, this decision affects multiple businesses throughout the valley. So it's not a decision taken lightly.
I have one small question. How many people at this table pay for trash?
Everybody is.
What do you mean pay?
Because I know a lot of people get to the dump out there because it's part of the perk of being who you are and what you are and what
No.
title you have.
Absolutely
I
not.
paid. I'm a commissioner and I paid.
Can you give me one example?
I didn't
I
really-
can, but I
know
don't
what
want
you're-
to. I
Well,
can.
then, please retract your statement, because that's not fair. If you're gonna call us out, provide
Anybody
facts
at
so
the
that either
landfill,
we can address it.
anybody at the landfill, do they pay?
Who?
Is anybody that works at the landfill,
Employees?
do they pay any employees at the landfill?
That I don't know, but they should.
Should.
So what was the reference to the $100?
Jennifer and I had a discussion
Oh,
last
okay.
week, and I had just made that reference that
Okay,
that
that's just a figure.
it was just, well, it was a figure based on my own experience.
Okay.
I go to Tamarack with myself, my
Yeah.
wife, and our two, and my son and his girlfriend. We spend $100.
But you're not gonna scare us off with $100 a month for garbage disposal, right?
No, I'm just using that as an example of,
All right, gotcha,
of if I go out to
yeah.
eat 4 or
Yeah,
5
we-
times in a
yeah.
month, and I
Yeah.
say, okay, I take one of those out, I don't need to go out to eat 4
Okay.
times in a month.
Yeah.
I'm just making the
Okay.
example.
Point made, yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Go ahead.
Okay, so assuming that the vast majority of people are not going to properly budget their $100, has there been any discussion, exploration of what it's going to cost the county to pick up after illegal dumping? If we drive people away from dumping properly?
That's my question.
I would say the people that Jennifer and Kurt already pick up for are not gonna throw their trash in the ditch.
Yes, they are.
You won't believe the amount of illegal
Oh, yeah.
things I find everybody tries to hide in a dumpster.
Yeah.
Like, they are skilled at trying to hide illegal trash in the dumpster. I am surprised. And they don't wanna pay it at this current rate. They're gonna go throw it in the ditch. And I already see that left and right. And, I mean, take Pueblo for an instance, they charge $40 a mattress, we charge 10. At $10, they're throwing them in the ditch. At 40, they're lining the streets and the alleys in Pueblo. I mean, it is a problem, but I do understand the cost of operating, the cost of running. I went from paying one run, I would fill my tank on my trash truck up, and it was $150. The other day I was dancing because I was at $298. I thought it was great, I was under $300. I do understand the cost. Repair costs are through the roof if you can find the parts. Nobody stocks nothing
We
anymore.
all experience that.
And
So
I'd
then
like
that
to-
gives you downtime because your equipment's sitting. I do understand the cost. My concern is for the fixed income and the disabled and elderly people. So inflation and costs are skyrocketing, but their checks aren't. And we've known this day is coming. The closure of Manzanola have been talked about since before I started my business. We knew everything's gonna go up. One big huge jump is not going to substantially cover the bills. We're going to have to slowly, gradually keep increasing. I do understand that. But the big jump in a 24-hour period is a super huge shock to everybody instead of, hindsight's 2020, should have started 5 years ago and started increasing
We did.
slowly up here. We've had one increase since the day I've operated. We started charging and then we've had one.
To entity and commercial trash, this has been a process over the last 8 years. We've increased twice. Maybe only once since you've been involved, but it has been a somewhat gradual. And it probably was not enough at the time, and it that
We couldn't
helps it
foresee-
not make sense now of why it's too much.
We couldn't foresee the
Future.
future
Right.
costs of what we're facing today. I mean,
Right.
4 years ago, we wouldn't have thought what we're paying for fuel a day.
Sure.
Right. And I would
I
like
do
to
understand
further
that.
address the illegal dumping is, we cannot be held hostage by the threat of somebody doing something illegal. When the landfill was free, people would dump in the ditches because the gates were closed because our employees had a day off.
It's true.
So we're not gonna be held hostage by the thoughts of illegal activity. We will do what we can to go after those that do break the law, but that is,
But there's a cost value attached to that. There's a cost attached to going, telling somebody, you're gonna pay me $100 to go after him because he dumped illegally. There's a cost attached. Did we not see this come, have we not seen this coming? I'm getting the impression this is gonna be a 24-hour decision that, hey, tomorrow you're gonna be paying triple what you normally pay.
Well,
for
this has been in
dump.
discussions as long as I've been on this board for nearly 3 years.
Okay,
Kelly,
and so in
Don,
those 3 years,
recognize Kelly.
That's lady.
My name is Kelly Tate, and I work for the United States Postal Service in Otero County and Pueblo County. And I deliver in the rural route areas. So I go out to your ranches, and I will say, in Otero County, I deliver in the Fowler area, and I very rarely see any dumping, illegal or otherwise. And I don't think you're being held hostage to it. I think that's a little bit aggressive in your terminology there. Wait. I think it's a little aggressive in your terminology there because we're not holding you hostage to the fact that they're going to dump. I know people are going to dump whether or not there is a free landfill or it costs $1 million. I know that people like to dump. But in Otero County, you guys have a cleaner county as far as the illegal and random dumping of baloney.
Thank God we have those kind of people.
And when you get into Pueblo County, when I'm running the route out in Avondale and I'm going out to Bold Ranch, I have seen full-size 36-foot camper trailers dumped on the side of the road. I've seen couches, I've seen mattresses, I've seen pickup loads of trash just dumped in the ditch out in the middle of nowhere because people can't really afford to go to the dump. So while I don't know what the proposed hike increases are, I think it would be wise to start slow and work your way into it so that you're not getting I paid $1.30 for gas today, and then a year later I'm paying $3.59 for a gallon of gas type situation. I think there's some, I understand that you have to raise rates, and I understand the operating, and I understand that you're using used equipment. Hell, I buy used cars. I understand that. I bought a used refrigerator just the other day. I bought a used dishwasher just a couple weeks ago. The only thing I didn't buy used was carpet. I got brand new carpet in my house after 25 years. 25 years I had my old carpet. So I understand the whole buying used. I don't like the terminology of being held hostage. I think people are gonna do what people do. But I think we need to be discerning as far as, I would love a 10% cost of living raise at my job. So, it's not happening. And he mentioned 10% was what was going to be the final,
That's our projected increase in revenue.
right, so 10%.
But let me back that up.
I'd give 10%. I'd love to have 10% in my bank account extra each month, but that's not gonna happen. So I understand that you have to raise costs. I'm not stupid to the way of revenue and cost and all of that. I'm not stupid to that. I'm saying that we should really start slowly and work people into it. I don't spend $100. I don't go to the Tamarack and spend $100. And that's my choice. I don't go anywhere and spend $100 on food. I make my food at home. You know, that's just what it is. I also don't pay for trash service. We haul our own trash because Jennifer and Kurt, that we burn our trash out, you know, in the country. We live out in the middle of nowhere and we burn our trash. And occasionally we have Jennifer and Kurt come by and pick up our trash barrels when they get full. Because we live so far out in the middle of nowhere, you know, as far as it's a half a mile.
So why are you here if you don't pay for trash service?
I'm here because my mother is 79 years old this year. She is a widow woman. She makes $300 a month on her little pension. And she has her house free and clear. She has her car free and clear. She has all of her bills free and clear, but she will not be able to afford trash if you guys raise it to $66 a month, because she's only making $300 a month. She lives a nice life. She has a great yard. She has a beautiful yard. She takes care of her house. She takes care of everything. She makes sure that her trash is cleaned up around her yard. She makes sure that she follows all the rules.
Okay, let's
Where-
move on.
John, man, where does the $66 a month come from?
It's just, when I hear the percentage, that we're going to raise it X percentage, that in my mind, after doing the math, and maybe I'm not a mathematician, but it come to around $60 to $70 that you would be raising it for someone like my mom.
From who?
That's just my.
Well, who is her trash provider? Who would charge this $60 to $70?
I'm saying that's what her trash would have to go to if you guys were to implement the increases that you're currently implementing at the maximum.
At the maximum, but to who is she paying this money?
Does it matter?
Well, it does when you're
She's
using a
paying it
figure
to a
that
trash
makes
service.
absolutely no sense to me, ma'am.
It doesn't matter who she's paying it to, she's gonna have an increase in her trash service.
She will probably, yes, for sure, have an increase in her trash
But
service.
she can afford the
Is it going to-
$20 a month, she can't afford the $70 a month.
But who is saying it's going from $20 that she's currently paying to $70?
I'm not saying
a month?
who's saying, I'm saying that from the proposed, and I haven't seen all the proposed rates up and down. I'm saying that at the maximum amount, the potential is there for her to have to pay between $60 and $70 a month for trash pickup.
Well, if that's to a private, I don't see any of the town haulers going to those type of rates. If that's from a private hauler, Jennifer, are you going to $70 a month?
No, that's not the proposed number, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm right now at 22 a month. If your price is triple, mine has to.
Yours do not have to triple. That means that you make triple the profit, correct? Your profit margin goes triple as well. There needs to be some balance between your profit margin and what will be
I am
charged.
the lowest.
Yours too.
Right, yours.
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
I've
Go ahead.
given you examples of how ours is.
This is Dave Howard, he's
Okay.
on the board as well.
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, I've been on the board almost since its inception. And the way it was set up, we set it up as a co-op, and we have subsidized through taxes the operations of the landfill up until now. So in doing that, any hauler, that's a private hauler, every town in the county and the county itself is subsidizing your company through tax revenue. So remember, just all of you keep this in mind, is that this business is a not-for-profit business. Our records are totally open to the public. Anyone who wants to examine everything that we're talking about is readily available. Okay? That's it.
Thank you, Dave.
John, we have a couple of
Okay, excuse me.
gentlemen in the green shirt.
Commissioner Hostetler, will
Yes.
you please ask names?
Oh, can I have your name, please?
Yeah, my name is David John. I'm the trash supervisor for Sugar City Disposal. About half of the residents of Sugar City are elderly or handicapped in one way or another to where they're on a fixed income. And I agree with this lady over here that these people just aren't going to be able to take on the added increases that we have. And that's basically speaking for all the elderly people of my town. They're strapped so tight now that, like she said, they can't afford toilet paper. Basic food is becoming a hard deal. So any increase to those amount of people of my town is going to be a burden. It's like I said, it's basically a retirement community where we're at out there. If most of the people are retired, we have a number that are handicapped as well. They're going to end up not being able to afford the service. And that in turn is going to mean less revenue for Sugar City Disposal. Because these people, they're going to do something, and if they can't pay the bill, they're going to end up dumping somewhere or using the neighbors or, finding a dumpster. They're going to do other things other than pay that bill. It's going to create problems all the way around. It really will. And that's all I really have.
Go ahead. Your name?
Hold on. Steven, since you already got to talk. Go
Did I
ahead.
miss something?
Yeah. So my name is
State your name. Okay.
Yeah, my name's Mandy Holt. I live in Manzanola, so my landfill is closing in February. So I'm on a fixed income. I'm disabled. I don't get to go out to Tamarack all the time. I don't get to go out to eat all the time. I can barely afford to do normal things, and then for the trash to increase, I mean, you guys really need to take that into consideration, because you guys may not have to worry about a fixed income, but the other people do. And, it makes it very stressful to try to figure out, okay, so do I pay a prescription this month, or do I pay my trash this month? Or do I pay for food this month, or do I pay for trash this month? It's very disconcerting that you guys are not taking that into consideration at all.
I'm sure it is concerning.
Well,
I'm not stupid the fact that things are going up, but our income is not going up at all.
how long can the landfill, if say no increases are made?
I'm not saying no increases.
Just hang on, but how long can the landfill run at even breaking even? No, not even breaking even. We're going to be losing money without some form of increase.
Some
Therefore,
form of increase is okay, but from what I'm understanding is that it's going to be a triple increase.
if we lose the landfill altogether, it
I
affects
don't have
everybody.
they're I go through Valley Trash, and they are the only company that will service my area. So, because I tried Sugar City, I've tried Pueblo, they
Sugar
will
City services Manzanola.
well, when I looked at the thing, they said they wouldn't come to our area, so I don't know. But it's just disconcerting. We can, like they said, ease into it, not just do it okay, we're going triple the price or whatever the projected values are. I don't have a list, so I don't know what the amounts are going to be or whatever. But it is like I think you guys should really, really take that into consideration for the people that are on a fixed income.
John,
Get another
in the back.
State your name, please.
Gary Massey, I'm a trustee of Sugar City. Have you considered that this rate change is just going to drive people to the bigger companies, and you're actually going to lose revenue in the long run because you're not going to have people using your landfill, because it's going to be hauled to Pueblo instead, because they can do it for $12 cheaper a month than we can now?
We have considered that immensely.
Because that's what's going to happen.
Like I said, we are committed to making this the cheapest that we can, but we have to be able to cover operating costs. If you can't cover your operating costs and keep up with inflation, How do we run a
You
landfill
can't be in business.
with no money?
Just a minute.
Oh.
Start, you're back, you start first, take your
Yeah,
name.
So what is your proposed increase?
We have several on the table. The worst, I'll give you the worst, or not the worst, the highest proposed increase, and it is, quite frankly, where, the start of where we need to be, because if we do this, phase this over the next continued years, it's gonna go up. We would go to $20 per ton,
Could you tell us what it is now compared to what?
$11 a ton.
Okay.
That is for compacted commercial trash.
And over what time period? I mean, I'm getting the impression this is gonna be a 24-hour change.
No, it's not. This would start January 1st.
So you're looking at doubling the rates.
Roughly.
That's what he means by a 24-hour change.
Sorry, I'm wrong. $30 per ton. Looked at the wrong sheet.
Quite an increase in the next 2 months.
That is quite, that
that's
is
what
the
you mean by
highest
24 hours.
proposed increase. That has not been voted on or even discussed.
What's your backup plan?
Phases.
Phasing it in.
I mean, I'm honestly, she brought up a good point. We talk about buying local and doing all this stuff, and I'm sure everybody in this room, this is why we have them here, because we pay for it locally. That's the whole reason I went to them, because I did have waste connections, I believe, or waste management. The bill went out the roof. I got my next door neighbor that can pick it up for a fraction of the cost. And I understand, there are costs attached to running a landfill. I get it. But, in the next 3 months, we're gonna double, almost triple the rate. Didn't we see this coming 2 years ago?
Yes, and we raised the rates effective to, not to our commercial haulers.
But thanks to the
But
local
to our-
business, but thanks to the local business that we run now, that didn't affect us. Now it's going to affect us.
Yep.
And
Al, can I ask you what was the rate that you paid prior that made you change to?
I
Well-
think for two tote pickup for me at the time was probably $65 roughly. And they came in and picked it up for me for roughly, I think it was $24, which I thought was a steal. So I jumped on it. I actually bought an extra tote. Then I went to a 2-yard dumpster, which is still quite cheaper than what I pay for a bigger company. I pay less for that 2-yard tote than what I was paying for Waste Connections to come down and pick that up for me. And I find it very convenient. I no longer have to go to the dump or pay for a dump fee. I allow my neighbors to pick that up. But I'm hearing here in the next 2 months, you guys are gonna triple my rates because of costs being implemented by the state of Colorado and the EPA. I've been in manufacturing long enough to know that when the EPA decides to come down with a decision, it takes years. Years.
I think you
Before they
misunderstood me.
before they even decide to say, hey, we're gonna change based on our regulations.
We're not changing based on any new regulation. These are regulations that have been in place for many years, since Subtitle D regulations came out. But we have to be able to keep up with the cost of closure and operation, and we are currently not doing it. Our budget has been in the red, and we've had to rely upon our reserves that, I mean, for this is the, it was not in the red last year. It was in the red, it's in the red this year. The year prior, for the 3 years prior to that, it was in the red due to closures. This is the first year in 10 years that we've had to finance our compactor and not just purchase one.
So if
And
you
that's
did
due to the closures and the rising cost of opening a cell.
So if you did a
Hang on,
phasing in,
hang
how
on,
would
just
you?
one at a time, okay? And I believe you were next.
Yeah, so I
Your
really
name,
think,
could you state your name?
yeah, it's Steve
Okay,
Holmes,
that's right.
all day.
I do.
I do think that we're gonna experience more illegal dumping, and I do think that that can adversely affect property values. I appreciate the fact that we have some really super low property taxes as it is, but has it even been considered or proposed to look at a ballot initiative to fund the dumps through property taxes or through other government revenue?
The town of Fowler, since it doesn't have a trash service, it is still paying, or to my Fowler residents, you have a $5 fee on your water bill every month. That is the per capita fee that the town pays the county to be,
Not the county.
or excuse me, pays Oakley, excuse me, I apologize, that pays Oakley to be,
To operate.
to operate. So with these proposed increases, town of Fowler residents, which as mayor, I would be proposing to eliminate that fee off of the water bill, which I know is a small amount, but is still a $5 amount that comes off of your water bill. Because the town of Fowler is no longer having to pay Oakley to be part of the organization.
Go ahead.
So just as a note to my Fowler residents here.
This is Martin.
I want to speak.
There's a, go ahead, I'll get you, ma'am.
So my name is Martin Montoya. I am with the City of Lahana, the Director of Engineering. I came from the City of Lamar. I was the manager of landfill operations for the landfill in Lamar. I just want to give kind of a comparison, just so you guys can kind of see where they're at and where Lamar's at. Lamar does their landfill, it's city run, it's not county run. They're charging 2 cents a pound, which is $40 a ton. That's their cheapest rate for their residents. Anybody out in the county pays $70 a ton to use that landfill. So you're looking $30 a ton maximum, where the people in the county, in Prowers County, are paying $70 a ton to use that landfill. Just wanted to give you guys.
And that's to private haulers or commercial, commercial
Commercial,
haulers?
that's everybody
Residential?
outside of city limits pays $70 a ton in Lamar. If you're inside city limits, commercial, you're paying $60 a ton, residential, $40 a ton.
Hold on, Al.
Yeah.
She's been waiting patiently. Go ahead, ma'am.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, I live in Manzanilla too, so I understand what she's going through, understand what they're going through.
Please state your name.
Pat Quintana,
Okay. Thank you.
Pat Quintana. I leave you others to figure out the cost and all this, I don't understand all this rigmarole. Anyway, going back, as we are on disability, limited income, I myself am handicapped and disabled, excuse me. I recently lost my son and my husband. That's 2 incomes gone from our household. It's just me. And I'm having a heck of a time to have everything running as it is. And when my sister told us about her service, I have a choice to go for that or continue going to the dump. But then with hearing about the dump, it's going to close, so you gotta do something. My sister here, she lost her husband too, so we're widows. And it's just me and it's just her in our own separate households. Everything's been difficult and hard on us. We can't afford to go out and eat. We can't even go to Sonic and afford a $10 burger. We can't afford nothing. We stay home and eat, slap your bologna or whatever you want, just to get through the day. And these are hardships. And unless anybody is in your shoes or your circumstances, nobody's really going to notice or understand or see, because like basically out of sight, out of mind. And these hardships do hurt the people.
Sure they do.
Very much so, to where it affects them in more ways than one.
I've been in your shoes.
Yes. You know what I mean then.
Okay. Ma'am, you had something?
Karen Goodseit, Gutzeit. Is Oakley making some changes in order to adjust costs? One thought is, if you have reserves, are those reserves being looked into putting them in higher paying interest
Yes,
things?
We evaluate that very closely to get the most.
Because
money
that's
we
a,
can.
that's an opportunity right now to be able to make some money and put towards. Could you describe maybe some of the things that you're looking at in order to reduce that triple amount of money that you're asking us to pay? So can you maybe advise us on what you're doing maybe to cut costs and rearrange things and the reserve? And also, can you describe if Manzanola is closing, you have a new one that's opening, correct?
No, we do not.
So do you have a current one that you're using that Manzanola will be shipped to then?
Yeah.
Okay. And can you describe any of the cost-saving measures that you're undertaking?
So as far as the cost savings, there is little that we could do to have cost savings at a landfill. I mean, the cost to operate it's consistent and it without, other than inflation and cost driving up to that we have to pay for, the operations of it are ran as cost efficiently as possible. There's not much that we can do. Our little bit of reserve funding, yes, we invest that. We have that in an investment in different investment things. There is limited investment opportunity to put government funds in, which these are government funds. So we can't get quite the interest that a private person investing their own money. COVID all but completely wiped out any type of interest bearing that we got on our investments, but that is rebounding. We are able to recoup some of our, or not recoup, but to get gains on our money now, more and more daily. But with Manzanola closing, they will be, if you continue to do business within the county, you will have to go to the site number 2, which is outside of Rocky Ford. That has been in operation for many years. And that will be our main landfill, our only landfill.
And there will be additional gas to drive there.
It would be.
It will be.
Yeah.
And is there a group that is active in trying to decrease or make it more cost effective for all of the regulations? And are those regulations down to the local level too? I mean, in other words, does the local level put regulations on you also? And do we have a group that's working on those to bring those down?
Yes, there are many groups throughout the state that work to fight landfill regulations. We try to stay up on as much of that as we can, but the landfill regulations, while they're
It's not the only county with this problem.
right. Landfill regulations, they're there, and the regulation itself does not necessarily cost us money. What costs us money is to do the work, the closure work, how we're required to line a new cell, dig, excavate a new cell. That's where the money comes into it. Regulations costing us. Is our design, our forced design on how to dig a cell.
Since the interest rates are going up, are we also regulating some more of that money to go in the reserves for future?
Yes.
And how much are we setting aside of the new budget that would go to those things?
With the proposed, we've just started to get into budgets for next year. But I think our proposed budget next year has us in the, does it have us in the black this year? No. we're still in the red.
So you won't be putting any additional aside for future,
The only thing that would continue to rise is whatever interest we make on our investments.
So one thing that you touched on though, with the closing of the Manzanola location, that's still an expense for the next 30 years without any revenue being generated from that location. So that's,
So that's currently what we're paying for,
if,
or we will be paying for. Is that what you're saying?
well, it's factored in.
Right.
Yeah, it's partly factored in. Hold on, Al, because Kelly had a question. If you can hold that thought.
So, how does the recycling work? I know we've got the place in Manzanola. Is that something that's not an option to,
I will answer that because I have touched on that
yeah?
several times.
I'm
with
just
Mayor,
curious, I don't know that
because
much.
I feel I'm not an eco freak or anything, but I think recycling is a responsible thing to do.
Right.
Within the town of Fowler, it's been asked and checked into many times, and it would cost the town of Fowler money to put bins, recycling bins, and to collect.
Really?
That, as opposed to just, if people were to divide up their trash in the various plastics, glass, what have you, and dispose of it, and that recycling entity come and retrieve it, it would cost us, we would have to increase trash bills and water bills to cover that. So, yes, I understand your point. It makes sense.
So they
It
charge
makes
you to
logical
recycle.
sense, but it would still cost the town of Fowler money to recycle,
Oh.
which makes absolutely no sense, because then they're taking those and repurposing, however,
And making
whatever,
money off it, right?
recycling it, so.
Yeah, with what Lucas says, I have looked into recycling, offered recycling. It costs more to recycle than it does to throw away, even at the rate increase.
Really?
Yes.
That's unfortunate. I did not know that.
Recycling costs more than to throw away.
So
It's
behind
not
the scenes,
cost-effective.
Yeah.
there's been lots, I can't speak for every town, but for Fowler, I can speak for.
Yeah.
We have looked into ways of saving and eliminating certain costs and expenses without any luck.
Yeah.
And for the town of Manzanola, which I'm a council member on, we do
Counselor Shaw,
we do
we have to
provide, and we do pay for it. The town pays for the recycling bins, but we do provide it for you guys to use, and I think it's underutilized.
Where are they at? I don't live in Manzanola, I live like out.
They're over by the park.
Over by the
Just
park.
south of the park.
Okay, hold on. Dave, go ahead, you made a comment? Dave, you're.
the town of Straw also has to pay to have recycling done.
Okay.
Al, go ahead.
So, and I've talked to Kurt about this out in the hallway. I'm not completely against the proposed increase, because I do agree that, costs are rising, gas, food, the whole 9 yards. But these guys are local. So with your proposal, is there a possibility that rather than do it in 3 months, that we stretch it out for maybe another year?
We
Have we
have
looked-
even a 3-year proposal.
I mean,
Like,
that
all
was-
the examples that you've been given are we've given you the highest, most, quickest, aggressive proposal. We have several on the table that we will discuss.
Jesse has worked his tail off trying to figure out how to
Keep the cost.
minimize the impact on our communities. I don't think Jesse gets enough credit for what he's done in his short period of time as the landfill director, but he deserves a huge amount of credit for getting the landfill to where it's at currently. Unfortunately, Danny was torn between 2 different jobs, and it worked very good for Danny to be able to.
Yeah, if you don't, I was the landfill manager prior to Jesse. That's why I have a lot of the, I guess,
Historical numbers.
Historical numbers.
But Jesse needs a huge pat on the back for what he has done in his short tenure with the landfill.
Yes, ma'am.
Karen Goodsite, can we go over, then the three plans? Is that what it is? 3 plans, 3 different plans? And can you tell us what position that would put the landfill in? Cause I know one's overtime and one is right away, would that solve the problems right away? And then, so if you could go over the 3 plans and let us know how that will impact both the landfill and us.
Okay, 3-year phase would be, in the first year, is drop per capita to the entities to $10 from 15. So that's subsidized money. It doesn't really affect our haulers. And then increase our commercial trash, compacted trash to $20 a ton. And then there is other increase to other items, but it's very minimal. The next would be to drop our per capita fees to $5 and increase trash to $25 a ton. And the third phase of that would be to decrease all per capita, go to $30 per ton across the board. And then to out of county, that is raising it $43, this would be to Sugar City mainly, $43 a ton, $48 a ton at the next year, and ending at $52 per ton.
And that's for out of town.
That's for out of county.
people.
Out of county compacted trash. And we also have a 2-year phase, which is next year going from $15 to $7.50 per capita, and increasing from $11 to $24 per ton in county, and $48 from $38 to $48 per ton out of county. And in the following year, we would be at the $30 and 52.
And how does that impact the being in the red versus black?
Neither of those will put us in the black next year.
For future years?
No, there's no situation proposed that will put us in the black next year.
In the future, yes, they will get us to where we will be able to operate in the black in the future. But for next year, there's no way.
Because if you're not operating in the black, you're not putting aside funds to take care of future costs, which means we're back in the same position in the future.
Yes.
Probably short future too.
Yes.
Depending on how November goes. That's just, I mean, what's inflation gonna be?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, between
We're
inflation,
at-
between future
If
costs of
you can trust the
landfills.
numbers, if you can trust the numbers on inflation now, nothing I pay is at 11%.
No, I know.
Everything's
I know.
20, 30, 40%.
Yes, yes, yes.
So you can't trust what we're being told as far as inflation is concerned, so like they're saying,
And if we can't bank for the future either, there's no, we're in the same.
how can we increase?
Yeah,
We
we're
could
in
never
the same
increase to
position
account for
forever.
what could happen. We'd have 15,000 people in the county in here at this meeting.
No, but it'd be nice to be able to plan somewhat for the future. That's usually what a plan is. Back in a year.
We're kind of
Yeah.
kicking the can down the road the way
Yeah.
we're doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That's
with
what I mean.
the,
But-
with the 3-year plan.
But we've
eventually
been
you
guilty
get
of that in the past.
Yes, we
Oh,
will.
okay. Yeah.
What's that, Dave?
Next year, we have multiple expenses with the closing of Mendenhall. We have to open a new cell.
Right.
And where he was talking on regulations where things increase, one of the things right there off the top is the liner that's required by the state requirements on those regulations. They used to require it only in the bottom, now we're required to take it 3 foot up the sides. That's a $90,000 increase in what was budgeted for that in the past to get that, to where that's a 90,000 just jump because they decided they want us to go 3 foot up on each side from the bottom. That's what the difference is in the liner, just in the bottom to 3 foot up all the way around it.
Okay.
And
So
we
there
have to
again, yeah, that is an increase that was thrown.
And then we have to submit
Thrown
a
at
new
us.
construction plan with it because there's different things we have to do to put that liner up it. So then we have to pay our engineer at a crazy amount per hour, which if you know what they're making, to redo this design to submit to the state and pay the state a submittal fee to submit our plan to them. And then If it's approved the first time, then we're good. If not, then we have to go back and
Okay.
Are there many companies that contract for the liner, or are you stuck with one?
our engineer goes through multiple places. He finds us the best deal he can on getting us the best that he possibly can.
Is there anything else?
I do have a question. My name is Jonathan McMillan. You said you spend certain, I believe it was 600,000 on repairs, and you have to replace your machinery every 4 to 5 years. Well, with my job, I have machines that I run, and I mean, we work with that are, I mean, probably as old as, I mean, no offense, probably older than some of the people in here. And I mean, it still runs as good as day one. So is that something you're told you have to do, or?
I think you got some of my
I wasn't sure exactly. I know you said like the compactor you replaced every 4 to 5 years. It cost us so much to work on. I mean,
Yes.
I know the same thing. I work on machines. But I mean, the machine it's been there since 80s, 70s, 60s, and it still runs as good as day one. So where are you going to get?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Compactor cost us $600,000, and we replace that every 4 to 5 years.
Right. Is that something you have to replace every 4 to 5 years? Or is that
To get our compaction that we need to keep driving costs down,
right?
because airspace is money. Yes, it is. And with the newer machines, once we get out of, we try to replace it when the warranty runs up.
Right.
So once we get out of that warranty, that skyrockets our heavy equipment repairs and maintenance. Well, we're already now, here's the other figure that I gave you, was $50,000 to $75,000 a year
Right.
on our aged machines. But for the compactor, we do replace it every 4 to 5 years when the warranty is up, because we feel that that is our best
Bang for the buck.
bang for the buck. And
Right.
in order to drive costs down to the consumer, we've got to get the compaction that we need.
Yeah.
Also, you have a piece of equipment that's being used all day, every day.
Well, see,
Versus
that's
another
us too.
piece of equipment that may not be.
We're running 24/7.
Yeah.
24/7. I mean, Sunday to the next Sunday, 24/7 nonstop. I mean, we're constantly moving.
And a compactor is, I mean, it's doing a lot of work. I mean,
I know it's trash, but I mean, I'm moving steel too.
I can say when the compactor, the old compactor went down, it was down for a month, and that hurt even hauling in. We have to find somewhere that the wind's not gonna blow the loose trash. These guys, Jesse and them, work their butts off so we could keep hauling in there. If not, probably legally, they should have shut down.
Yeah.
But they kept us going until they get the compactor up and going. So the compactor, I agree with them, it's gotta run every day.
Oh no, we were just
It keeps us,
asking.
it keeps us able to haul in there, and then
Right.
keep it, even when the wind picks up, the trash blows, it shuts a dump down, and they gotta keep it smashed fast.
Anything mechanical, repair over replacement costs, you have to weigh
Right.
that.
Yeah, that's how we are.
factor
So
and go.
I was just wondering, like, if there was a certain set rule that you replace it that much, or could you like sometimes like we have to outsource for repairs too.
Yeah, that's what we found is our best business model for just the compactor. The rest of our equipment is, like you said, older than most of the people in here. And we scrimp it and get by and patch
Yeah.
it and whatever we can, but the compactor is one thing that we do not.
Right.
Well, that's like the major thing, so.
Yes.
Like the big.
Well, I think we've discussed this pretty heavy. Is anybody?
Kelly has one.
Okay.
I just have a question. So which business model as far as increase, because we know it's gonna increase, we understand that it has to increase. Which business, or which increase would keep them from going out of business?
Yeah.
Because that's my concern for them, is that they would have to go out of business because the increase is so large that their customer base can't afford the increase.
We're not trying to put anybody.
No, I understand you're not
That's
trying to
what's
put
gonna
anybody out
happen.
of business. I'm saying, when you're doing the numbers and you're crunching the numbers, you see that they've got to increase their prices. If you triple yours, they've got to triple theirs because they've got to make up the difference somehow. So is there a way to slowly increase so that they can slowly increase so that everybody, it's like
That's
putting a
what we're
frog
talking
in
about,
boiling
phasing-
water
and
as opposed
phasing
to.
this in. That's
Yeah.
what we're talking about right now.
No, I understand that, but
We don't know what that number is. And
do you think the 3-year plan is the best? I mean,
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
On the price increases, for anybody that's hauling, we decrease them slowly, what we're doing is we're still gonna be subsidizing the haulers. That's the difference in what we're talking about. Right now, that's what we've been doing. And if we do it slowly, that's, you know, it'll be up to the board to decide that. We all, you know, we'll argue our points, but to have the subsidies still in place, which is what they are, what we're doing is subsidizing haulers to be able to haul at a lower price. That's it.
Which is what our per capita fees are, if that's what you're referring to, Dave.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm talking
Right,
about.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Karen Goodside. Just one more thing to consider. If you go with the most drastic plan, have you considered what that will do not only to the small businesses at the hall, but also to your business in of itself? Because that's a really huge price increase. It would be, I think, better for community and for your business to do it in smaller increments, just because that's a big bite over a lot of people. And is your business going to be able to absorb the number of people who are going to walk away from it, so to speak?
That'll be considered.
Yeah.
Let me take it.
Well, we have, and
No, we're not
again,
just gonna,
as stated before, nobody could have, and Kurt even stated, who could have foreseen
Yeah.
2 years ago we'd be
What was
looking
gonna
at these
happen today.
increases. No one would have believed the crystal ball if that's what it would have spit out. Unfortunately. And unfortunately, we're in that position at this point, and it's very, very difficult position and decision we have to make.
Yeah, I just don't want to leave our community out altogether,
Most definitely.
so to speak,
Most
you know?
definitely.
And the worst case alternative is for us to go out of business. And the community will greatly suffer far
Everybody
more
else.
than anything we could do today. I promise that. We are committed.
The end result if everybody starts having to haul their trash to Pueblo anyway. Because you're gonna wind up out of business if Waste Management has contracts with every municipality around here, and all you're picking up is a handful of people who live out in the county who's still bringing their personal trash to you. If you jump it like that, you're gonna force these towns to go with contracts with cheaper, bigger businesses and drive that business out away from here.
And we've just got to find that middle ground.
We
of
just
what
gotta
we
find
do.
the balance.
And the
As Al
balance-
stated, he was already paying, or going to pay $70 a month.
For 2 totes rather than a dumpster.
We can't continue
So-
to.
But he didn't.
Not
He
be
found
doing that.
elsewhere.
Right.
But what is Waste Management at now?
They're usually about $5 more than us when we put in bids most places per tote, but with this, they are gonna be much cheaper.
Can I make a comment?
go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, if the landfill closed in the town of Sherrod, we would have no option. We would have to continue charging for trash service for the next 30 years for our liability against what we've already done. We wouldn't be able to stop charging for trash. And they'd still have to hire someone else to come in and get it.
But that's bad management. That should have been taken into account a long time ago. Sugar City has had their money for their landfill that's been closed and put back since it was open, so that shouldn't be the residents' problem being passed on to them by improper planning.
We only generate revenue from taxpayers. It doesn't come from anywhere else. The landfill operates because of the people who live in the community and that are taxpayers. The counties and the cities, we don't generate revenue. We only take it.
I don't see how that's related.
I was 13 years old 30 years ago, so trying to say what should have been planned 30 years ago, we can't change that now. We have to put ourselves in a position now to plan for the future, as
Well, you
she
just gotta deal
stated,
with what
and
you
we
do.
have to make, as Danny stated, that
tough
middle ground.
decision.
We're not trying to jab everybody. we're forced with a tough decision that 30 years ago, yes, it should have been addressed. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, it wasn't, unfortunately. But that money there is money set aside. There is money that money's there. Just like Social Security. You can't take from that now. We gotta leave that there. We're not gonna do like Social Security did.
I'm on Social Security, I know what that's like.
Brenda.
Go ahead. It just left me. Sorry. Seriously, I had the
I can relate to that.
I'll get it. That train will come around here in a second. The trash truck will come around. Go ahead. Sorry.
If there's no further discussion on this, we'll move on with our meeting.
Train came back. I hate to quit my name now, but my name is Brenda Smith. No, it's Brenda Eddy. So if you were to settle on the 3-year plant proposal, there was a 3-year proposal, correct?
There was, yes.
Would that lock it in to where you couldn't change that as far as next year? You realize inflation or whatever skyrockets and now you're in the back in other words, coming back here next year and having this discussion. Will that 3-year plan, if that was accepted?
I don't believe
locked
that's
in?
doing good business that we would vote to lock something like that.
Okay, just-
Because we don't know, we can't foresee the future.
That's, yeah.
No, I get it. I just was questioning
And,
that.
you know, the way, truly how I see it is even if we go to the lowest, the 3-year option, the projected numbers will be higher at the end of 3 years than what they are now. Just common business, but there won't be much.
Okay.
But we are committed to do the best we can to you. We always have, and January 2nd will still be the cheapest landfill in the state, one of, regardless of what we do. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.